This is the Big Deal Podcast, brought to you and powered by New Covenant Baptist Church in Albertville, Alabama. And on this podcast, we're asking the question, what's the big deal about all things Bible, theology, and culture? I'm Justin.
I'm Brad.
Welcome to the Big Deal. How you doing, man?
Super duper.
Super duper. Show everyone. Go ahead and show them.
Oh, wow.
Just do it right off the bat. Just show them.
See my smiley face?
Yeah. Hey, everyone, if you're listening right now, you can turn on the video version on Spotify or YouTube and something. You can see a gruesome scar forming on Brad's arm.
See how yellow it is? It's so nasty.
Yeah, he was bit by a dog this past
I was
week.
savaged by a dog.
And that's all he's been talking about since.
Yep. I
mean, it's a pretty traumatic experience. It was pretty legit.
Yeah. The guy told me the dog is a German Shepherd Husky Wolf mix. That's what he said.
So basically, savage killer.
Savage killer.
Yeah.
100%.
Why is that dog in existence? Like, why? Who does that?
I don't know, but I can tell you.
Who in the world breeds that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a fluffy.
Also, I can tell you that that dog can run about 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Like a horse. Sound like a horse galloping across the land to attack me in the street while I was just trying to jog.
Trying to exercise.
Thank God it hit me in the first of my jog and not at the end of the 5K. Can you imagine?
Oh
my gosh.
You'd been exhausted. Yeah.
I had to fight for my life.
Yeah.
Legit. Like, not even joking. I had to fight for my life. The dog was trying to kill me.
I think, silver lining. You always look for silver lining.
So the Lord has delivered me from the paw of the wolf.
I think I'm probably going to win our weight loss challenge now.
For sure. I can't be in a deficit right now. Although that dog
taking you out of the gym.
That dog did eat about 2 ounces of my arm.
That's true. That's true.
Dear listener, when I got home, I realized I was hurt and I was afraid my tendons had been snapped. So I was wiggling my fingers to make sure they would wiggle, and I could see my tendon sheath moving.
In the gaping hole.
And I thought to myself,
we should put like a content warning.
Yeah, I thought to myself that tendons were white. Do you assume tendons are white?
Yeah, I would have thought
They're yellow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yellow's fine too.
Yeah, it was weird. It looked like I hadn't brushed my tendons.
I saw when I was
yellow teeth tendons.
When I was a kid, I was cutting something, and I was using a box like a X-Acto knife or something, razor blade, and I sliced this thumb, and it was this huge scar right here, you know, and it went straight to the bone and notched the bone. And everything, and you could see, it was laid open, just wide open. And you see that stark white bones in there. It made me so sick to my stomach. Yeah. I was like about to throw up. Just from seeing it all.
I saw nasty, it. My brain, it's funny what adrenaline does to you and like your brain. When I was looking at that, my brain sort of detached it. I don't know how to explain it, but it wasn't like, oh, gross. It was like a weird fascination. It was so weird. Really? Like it was happening to somebody else almost.
If it's on someone else, I can do that.
Yeah.
Like if your arm got cut off right now, I would be able to like wrap it up and deal with it, whatever. But like if it was on me, I would help you. I'm faint. I'm like passed out.
Yeah. No, I would help you. I know that when I saw the dog coming, what's that movie with all the little people that live inside your head? You got sadness and
what is
Pixar
that? Movie. Inside Out.
Inside Out. Okay. Yeah. So the dog's coming. And he's running full tilt, like probably 35, 40 miles an hour. And I'm trying to tell this as true as I can. I'm not exaggerating.
There were 4 of them.
No, there's just one.
They were wolves.
Just one. He was part wolf, apparently. And I could see his teeth from 100 feet out. And I probably had, from the time I saw him until he hit me airborne, maybe 0.3 of a second. So I have this scenario in my head where all the little people are scrambling. Mm-hmm. And they're like, pull the adrenaline lever. And the guy's like, he was like, how much? He was like, all of it. Dump it all. Because when that dog hit me, by the way, the physics of a 65 to 70 pound dog.
I told you guys, this has always been talking about.
Hit you at 35 miles an hour. It's a tremendous physical impact.
Yeah.
It no matter how hard you think it is, you ain't right.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel it. Did not. I felt my body said that's bad, but it said, but we're not going to let you feel that now.
Adrenaline.
Adrenaline's a great drug, but here's the sad part: 6 minutes later,
Yeah.
it turns off like,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you're like, I think I'm fine. I can drive myself to the hospital. And then you're like, I'm dead.
Ouch.
All of a sudden you're shaking like it's 35 degrees below zero. You're like, I think I'm going to throw up now.
Yeah.
And then you start cussing involuntarily.
Did you? Did you get like cussing Tourette's?
Oh my goodness, I did. I was like Tourette's.
You're
I
a
was
pastor, bro.
I know. I was shooting cuss words so fast, and my daughter's standing there, and I was like, I'll explain all this later.
You don't know these words.
You don't know these words, but when I was 18, I learned to cuss in the Army, and it's coming back to me.
Zoe probably knows those words.
She does now.
She goes to public school.
Here's the funniest part of the story that ain't funny, but it is funny now. I was not in my right mind.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for something to wrap this up with because I'm bleeding all in my house, and I know I got to go to the hospital. And I pick up the Band-Aids, and the caveman in me still functions like, Band-Aid, no good. So I just throw them like I'm the Hulk. Every time I found something that wasn't what I wanted, like putting it back was stupid. Just throw it. Just throw it. Oh, look, that's not it. Throw. So my wife comes home and doesn't know anything's happened. Zoe, my 17-year-old, is driving me to the hospital, and she's like, can I run the red light? I'm like, yes, you can run the red light. It's what these hazards are for. Drive faster.
She told me how exhilarating it was to run the red light.
I was like, you can run it. I was like, look both ways. I was super calm. I was like, you gotta look. But my poor wife comes home, and she's like, where's my husband and my daughter? So she walks down the hall, and she turns on the light, and the first thing she sees is like Band-Aids and stuff thrown everywhere. She's like, what in the world? And then she looks, and there's blood everywhere, and she's like, what in the world? Oh, no. Yes, that's what my wife came home to. She starts looking around. There's blood on the light switches. There's blood on the doors. There's blood everywhere. And she's like,
and your family's gone.
And her family's gone. And she's like, you know what her first thought was?
What?
He's cut his hand off on the tractor. She thought I had a tractor wreck, which in the top 5 ways, that's probably number one.
Yeah, you've had some tractor accidents, man.
I am a menace on a tractor.
Yeah, for sure.
So to myself. Yeah. And so she checked our spy thing we have on our phones, Live 360. She's like, they're on the way to the hospital. So she tries to call. This is another great thing. My daughter is currently driving faster than she's driven. Ever. She's panicked because I'm bleeding over here and I'm swearing involuntarily. Tourette's. I don't know. The Lord will work it out. I told him I was sorry.
Did you mention that during your confession yesterday morning during church?
No.
Confessional prayer?
I asked him.
Oh, you should have.
I did. I talked to him about it in my head. I was like, I'm sorry about that if it was wrong.
If it was.
Yeah,
I really don't know.
I don't really know. If it is, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I think that's what cuss words are for.
Yeah.
Is when you get attacked by a wild animal trying to kill you.
Yeah, for sure. Or a wild man.
So Zoe is trying to drive. She's panicking, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, she's doing really good, okay, for 17.
Yeah.
Kudos. But the phone starts ringing. And so she's trying to answer it while she's driving fast and traffic. And she manages to answer it. And we're swerving now because she's trying to get the phone.
Oh, no.
And the only thing Amy hears is, hang up the phone. Hang up the phone now. Whoopsie. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. So did Amy think that y'all were now kidnapped or something?
I don't know what she thought. She figured out we were at the hospital and met us there. Okay. And I left the first hospital because the treatment I received there was atrocious.
Was it?
That was so bad.
I've been told, I'm sorry, if this is a local podcast, whatever. I've been told not to ever go to Marshall South for an emergency.
I will neither confirm nor deny the fact that I was actually there for about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And they told me to go sit down. There's people in front of me, and I was bleeding in the floor.
Yeah.
And then when my daughter lost it and yelled at them.
Did she really?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, good job.
She said, my papa's arm is almost ripped off, and he's probably going to lose his arm, and he may bleed out and die. Get him back here. So the person that they hired from the methadone clinic...
Oh, no. Yeah. Look, if you work at Marshall South, I guess we're sorry.
Yeah, for some of you, I'm sorry. But if you work at Marshall South, you're probably like, I know that lady. Anyway, so yeah, I sit down and there's literally a hole in my arm. You could put a golf ball in probably. And not all the way, but
you could tee off of it.
You could tee off of it. You saw the picture.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not exaggerating.
And there's enough. You could put the golf ball in it and tee off.
If you rolled it down my arm, it would have gone in the hole and stayed.
Yeah.
The lady looks at it and says, "That's an awful description." Yeah. The lady looks at it and says, "Oh, that ain't nothing. We'll probably give you a couple of shots and you can go on home." That's what she said. Just like that, too.
Gosh.
She had the Aunt Marge voice. "Yeah, it ain't nothing." And I was like, and remember, I am on the raggedy edge of involuntary swearing.
Yeah, yeah.
The Lord restrained me.
Yeah.
But I did say some pointed words to her. Yeah. Anyway, good times, adventures.
Yeah.
I can't talk about any more of it due to the fact that the litigation is still out and all that stuff.
It was a big experience.
Yeah. I will just tell you this, dear listener. It's not as easy to get rid of a menacing, deadly dog as you would think it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You'd think once that happens, like the police just go over there and
shoot it.
Shoot it.
Yeah.
That's not what happens.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And I think like a couple of decades ago, that's what would happen.
Well,
actually, they would say, you have my permission. You have our blessing.
Just go over there and shoot that dog.
We're not going to come if they call the police.
I shouldn't get any more involved in it.
Yeah.
But, yep, that's what happened. It's good times.
Well, so I'm sorry that happened to you, Brad, but we're done talking about that now. Yeah. We're going to talk about the Bible.
I didn't get to tell him how hard it bit me, though.
We all know it bit real hard.
I felt the blood pressure go up in my toes when it squeezed me.
You really? Oh, God.
I felt it in my toes and my eyeballs. I felt
your
it.
eyeballs.
I'm serious.
Oh, my.
Like when you think a dog bite hard.
Dog bite real hard.
Well, it displaces your blood, I guess, when it squeezes you like a vice. It went in my eyeballs and my toes, and my body went, oh! Anyway, that's probably why I'm blue all over my arm. All right, let's go.
That is.
Ask me another question.
Oh, I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
Let's just talk about what we're going to do. So, dear listener.
Yes.
You were supposed to get a podcast last week.
Oh.
But unfortunately.
A dog attack ate our homework.
That dog
come in and ate our
SD
podcast.
card. No, but legit, I forgot to press record last week. Well, what was funny is like we had an interruption in the middle of the podcast. I had to stop the podcast. We had to deal with a phone call or something.
Yeah,
and then we started back. And when I got to the footage and the audio and everything, all I had was that clip of the break.
Yeah.
So I never turned it on to begin with, and I actually started recording during the break
and then turned it back off.
Turned it off whenever the break was over.
Awesome.
So that's ridiculous.
What's sad is it was the greatest podcast of all time.
It was total trash.
No, it was great.
Yeah.
It was like when Forrest Gump is up there in that's kind of getting dated, isn't it? And he's giving his speech.
Oh yeah.
And the guy unplugs it, and he's just down up there talking, and the million people can't hear what he's saying.
Yeah.
And then they plug it back in, and he goes, "That's all I got to say about that." Yeah. So we finished up Exodus yesterday.
We did.
And we shut the book on it probably better than anybody ever has. And that's why.
You are really talking that up,
The
man.
devil stole that podcast. Oh.
Or the Lord kept it from
the Lord was
I don't know which one.
I don't want people to understand Exodus 40 that good.
Well, we finished Exodus, and there wasn't actually really much left to talk about on Exodus. It was just they built the tabernacle.
They did.
It's done.
It's done. And
but Moses, you can't really go in it.
Yes,
that's literally how it
what's
is.
funny is it's so beautiful too.
Yeah.
It's got these golden cherubim that their wings touch over the top of the mercy seat, and it's made by a guy that God specifically blessed and gifted to make things beautiful.
Yeah.
And God made it on. It's like, okay, you can't go in there.
Yeah. So the Exodus 40 ends like this: the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. It's going to happen. They're all going to be able to be with God forever now. And the promised land is going to be wonderful.
The fire by night.
Moses was unable to enter the tent of meeting because the cloud rested on it, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. The Israelites set out whenever the cloud was taken up from the tabernacle throughout all the stages of their journey. If the cloud was not taken up, they did not set out until the day it was taken up. For the cloud of the Lord was over the tabernacle by day, and there was fire inside the cloud by night, visible to the entire house of Israel throughout all stages of their journey. So they built the whole thing, and no one can go in.
Yeah.
like it's kind of wild, isn't it?
It is. It's wild.
And that's what sets up the book of Leviticus. And that's what we're going to go into.
That's like heaven too,
Yeah.
We can't go in there yet.
Can't go in there yet.
You got to die.
Yep. That's right. I think these things are all prefigured. They're all types.
Yeah, there's a lot of prefiguration in it, and there's a reason that the veil of the temple's torn from top to bottom when Jesus passes, because there's no more barrier.
Yep, it's a big deal.
Oh, it is a big deal.
The tabernacle is built, and everyone is thinking we're kingdom of priests, holy nation. Yeah. We're all gonna be able to.
We should write a song about it.
No one gets to go in there.
Yeah.
No one gets to go in there ever.
The purpose of it, part of the purpose, is to demonstrate their separation from God. Mm-hmm. That God is both near and far.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's with you, but there are problems here.
You can't go in there.
Yep.
Yep.
And so that's what sets up this book of Leviticus, and that's what we're getting into now. We're not gonna redo the Exodus ending. That was pretty much it. The summary.
Except we had more jokes. It was a lot of good jokes.
It was actually probably the funniest podcast that's ever been
of all time.
Yeah.
Probably. God, could have catapulted us into.
I was actually still laughing about that podcast yesterday. I'm just kidding.
I don't even know what we said.
I literally cannot remember anything we said in that podcast.
Here's the beautiful thing about Leviticus. These first couple chapters are pretty great.
I want to talk a little bit about, just not necessarily an overview of what it is, but just talk about there's a bit of an elephant in the room when you get into Leviticus.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's super intimidating.
Yeah, because people think it's just like a book of nonsense laws. Yeah. Kind of.
And so if you're doing your Bible reading, say you're doing Bible in a year, or Old Testament in a year, Pentateuch in 6 months. There's
Pentateuch is the Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
Book of Moses.
There's a lot of reading plans like that, and I love them all. And you get to Leviticus generally, and things start really slowing down. Like your comprehension, things like there's just such a gap.
In general, people do well reading a narrative.
Yeah.
People do not so well reading law and instruction.
And there are only 2 narrative pieces in Leviticus, so it's very specific law and ritual practices, and so it's tough. It's hard
that
reading.
We don't do
that. It's stuff that you'll read that you will never practice.
Yeah. So if we were still practicing this, Leviticus probably would be fascinating.
You'd be hang on every word.
Yep. You'd be like, "What do we got to do? We're going up to the temple. What are we supposed to do when we get there?"
Yep.
And because I don't want to screw this up, it's kind of a big deal.
Yep.
Lots of people got dead because they messed this stuff up. Yeah.
And so that brings the question of why should you study Leviticus? Why should we spend any time on it at all?
Oh, well,
if you'll never do it, you'll never participate, you'll never see it. It doesn't have anything to do with your practice and what the things that you do in worship. Why should you do it?
Yes.
Why should you study?
So it is one thing that comes to mind immediately is it's about the same reason you should study history. So if things are happening in the world, like the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, or where I was in Kosovo, the Serbian-Albanian-Kosovar conflict, if you jump into that stuff in the present, you don't understand what's happening, or the history of it matters. Mm-hmm. And so the history of the Old Testament, this is just one thing.
Yeah.
The history of the Old Testament matters. Why does Jesus get crucified?
Yeah.
What's the point of that?
Why do you have to die?
Why do you have to die?
Why couldn't have Jesus just made an awesome, garden or something?
If you just or why didn't people listen to him?
Yeah.
So why didn't people listen to him?
Yeah.
Even that is in this.
It is.
And so the purpose of it is to give you the background so that you understand the gospel story in itself is sufficient. Mm-hmm. But it's sort of like if you jump in on a part 2 of a movie, you can still understand the movie. You piece it together. But there'll be certain things that you don't get. Like if you hop, this may be nerdy, but it's the first one that comes to mind. If you hop into Lord of the Rings, and you can follow it, but you don't understand Bilbo Baggins or how the ring came to Frodo in the first place, who Gandalf is. Why the Mines of Moria is so sad for Gimli. Mm-hmm. There's lots of pieces. You can still totally enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
But there's some things that make it I see what's happening. I see what Gollum is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why we study it. I would say, oh man, if somebody spliced this out, they could make me sound like a heretic and they would boo me. I would say it's not essential. in the sense of you can still understand the gospel and be saved and never read Leviticus.
Yeah.
But if you do,
most people
do.
Most people believe the gospel.
I'm not
and
saying
they have not
I'm
actually
not
read.
saying I am not saying Leviticus is unimportant.
Yeah, it's very important.
It's very important, but it is important in the growth and the demand of God's holiness and why Jesus did what he did, why he taught like he taught, what's going on at the temple, what the Pharisees and Sadducees thought were at stake.
Yep.
Like, it is good. If you really want to enjoy the movie of something, the best movies are the ones where you understand the villain.
Yeah.
Like, why is he doing this?
Yeah.
And if you can make his motivation make sense and still disagree with him, that's a great movie. If your villain is just stupid and it doesn't make any sense, like Thanos in the Marvel comics, Marvel movies, his motivation makes no sense. But if you can make it make sense and he's a good, well-rounded villain and you can almost sympathize with him, that's a good movie. And so if you understand Leviticus, you can see, I see what the Pharisees and Sadducees are saying.
Yeah.
They're wrong.
Yeah.
But I get it.
Yeah.
And of course, there's other motivations in it. It's not all pure. And that's the beauty of a story, right? The complexity of it.
You mentioned Thanos. We got to go there.
Do we?
You're right, though. It makes no sense at all.
Makes no sense.
The overpopulation, and I remember
that's not his motivation in the comics.
Oh, really? Well, in the movies, it's this overpopulation thing, and it's like
I'm going to spare the resources,
and he's gonna So we're gonna cut it in half.
Yeah.
And I thought this is just such
stupid.
A funny thing. If you cut the world's population in half, you know what year that would take you to?
Like 25 years or something.
Yeah, it'd be the 70s.
Yeah.
70s. We doubled.
He bought
since the 70s.
Yeah,
he bought 50 years.
He bought the universe 50 years. In the comics, it makes more sense. He's in love with Lady Death.
Oh.
And he kills half the population
that makes so much more
offering
sense
to her.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But they didn't want to deal with that. It's just like he's a bad forward planner.
Yeah.
He's smart enough to get all the stones, but he's like, I'm going to kill half the population.
Overpopulation is
I'm gonna help.
issue.
I'm going to help the resources of the universe and kill half people.
Yeah,
and
fly over rural Alabama and find out if
my goodness.
overpopulation.
Plus the whole universe.
Yeah,
Thanos.
for real.
How many populated planets are there,
Y'all
bro?
got spaceships.
Yes.
Thanos.
There's enough gold in the meteor belt of like the
dude. This is such a rabbit trail. This is crazy. I saw this the other day. This is so bizarre.
Yeah.
All of the gold ever mined on planet Earth would fit in a 20-yard cube.
Yeah. I read
all of it.
I read that I saw a similar stat. It was if you took all the gold ever mined in the world, it would basically be the size of an Olympic pool.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's it.
That's all the gold.
All the gold in the world that's ever been mined.
It's ever been mined.
Yes.
Every necklace,
yes,
ring, bar, plating.
Yes.
It's
basically fills an Olympic pool.
It fills one Olympic pool.
Maybe two. I can't remember what it said.
Imagine like a football field, 20 yards. Make a cube out of that. That's it.
That's it.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy.
It's crazy.
That's so bizarre to me. I have no idea. That has nothing to do with this.
No.
So why should you study Leviticus? Because it's the history of the Bible, and it informs everything. It's like, and so there's that. I
think it teaches the fear of the Lord too.
Yeah,
and
there's a lot of good theological lessons.
You kind of understand. It's like, why do you study the Dust Bowl in the United States history? What's the point? It's like, so we won't have it happen again. It's like, well, yes, but also to know where your ancestors or your forefathers came from and what you have, it helps your gratitude and worship. So when you read Leviticus, you read this, you should be thinking, I don't have to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
And there was a serious problem, and it's hard for us to understand how serious it is.
Yep.
And clearly, evangelicals don't understand how serious it is because look at our services.
Yeah. I love those reels that are going around
got
that
Winnie
TikToks.
the Pooh walking around
just checking in on the Protestant Reformation. And Yeah, someone like going around on roller skates or Winnie the Pooh dancing around on a church stage.
Pastors zip lining into the pulpit with a smoke machine. It's like, okay,
That's crazy, man.
Need to. This is why you need Leviticus.
Yeah.
Like I'd be throwing it at them.
Need some reverence. So, you mentioned understanding the Gospels. There's, a larger stretch of the Bible that is difficult to understand without Leviticus is just all the historical narrative.
Yeah.
From Judges, Joshua, really, all the way through Kings, Chronicles. So often there are passages, stories about priests, about what they're doing, that you won't understand if they're doing good or bad if you don't know Leviticus.
Yeah, and I think we may have talked about this, or it may have been in your sermon. The primary job of the prophet was not future saying; it is proclamation of God's word.
Oh yeah.
And the prophets all speak Pentateuch.
They do.
When they're talking, they're preaching Leviticus. They're preaching Exodus. They're preaching reminders of what was written in the book of Moses. Mm-hmm. And so, if you don't have that foundation, when Isaiah is warning the people, or Ezekiel's warning the people, or Jeremiah's warning the people, he's warning them from the book of Moses.
Yep.
He's saying, you promised when you came in this land, this is what's going to happen. Yep. And if you haven't kept my feast, you haven't kept my sacrifice, you haven't done these things, and therefore God is going to fulfill his covenant. He's going to cast you out of the land. Yep. And so if you need this foundation to understand the prophets, the exile, when God, I think it was Ezekiel, God gives him a bird's eye view of the temple, and he sees the priests in there making offerings to the star gods, and they've set up an Asherah pole in the middle of the temple, and he's like, oh,
yeah,
and he
fireballs.
Yeah, and he goes, now one of my favorite, I think it's Jeremiah. God says, make a yoke of wood, go in there and tell them they're going into captivity because they broke him along. And he goes up there, and that prophet says, thus says the Lord, I'm going to break the yoke from your back. And he takes Jeremiah's yoke and he smashes it. Yep. And Jeremiah says, may it be as God has said. Thank God. And Jeremiah starts walking home. And God said, hey, I did not tell him to say that. Yeah. Go home and make a yoke of iron. And go back and say, God is not going to break the yoke. He's going to make the yoke a yoke of iron now. And the guy who said that mess is going to be dead before the year's over. Whoopsie. Whoopsie.
Yeah. You miss the it's like there's a very flat kind of reading people have of the Bible sometimes where they assume everything that they're reading in the scriptures, God is speaking it straight to them. Like, then they read through Job. It's this flat reading. They read through Job and they read, the friends, what they're saying and stuff. And like, oh, God wants me to believe that the bad things happen to me are because of my sin. Or something.
Yeah.
It's like this flat reading where you're actually not a good reader when you're doing this. You're not reading the nuance.
It leads to some error too.
A ton of error.
We often say, like, don't build doctrine on narrative. Yeah. And that's, of course, there are exceptions to rules, right? But when you read a narrative and you start to build doctrine on it, you got to be wary, because sometimes things are recorded that are wrong, and the Bible doesn't say, and he was wrong to say this.
Yeah, you're supposed to know that from Leviticus.
The Leviticus, right.
So, like, I'm thinking about some moments in Judges.
Yeah.
Where priests do horrible stuff.
Oh,
it's not spelled out for you.
No, it doesn't say this is bad.
If you know Leviticus, you're like, he's done everything wrong here.
Everything.
Yeah.
Samson's narrative.
One
of the greatest things about the Samson narrative, that if you don't know the law. So Samson's gone out one day and he finds the dead carcass of a lion. This is without commentary in Judges. Mm-hmm. And honeybees have built a nest in its like rib cage. Yep. And he goes in there and he takes the honey and he eats it without comment. Now, what you learn early is that Samson has been dedicated as a Nazirite from the time that he was born, which means a razor can never touch his head. That's why his hair is so long.
Well, it doesn't mean anything to you if you don't know numbers.
You're right.
Because
you don't know what a Nazirite vow is.
Right.
So the people are like, oh, well, Samson couldn't cut his hair, and when he cut his hair, he lost his strength. Because he's a Nazirite. Yeah. Now, when he takes that honey, there's two problems with that. You can't touch anything dead when you're a Nazirite. And you're not supposed to eat honey.
He ate death honey.
Death honey. Like, he's a double violator of the Nazirite vow. And there's a beautiful symbolism in it. It pictures his life. He's always trying to take the sweet from death, from the wrong thing.
Yep.
It's with his relationships with women, how he handles conflict. But if you don't know numbers and you don't know what a Nazarite vow is, it's just this weird moment. It's like, why is he eating the honey out of the line?
It's important. And so that's why you need Leviticus. You need like, it is scripture. It's the word of God. It's God breathed, right?
Or even why he can't cut his hair.
Yeah.
People get the idea about Samson that his hair was magical.
It was like a superpower thing.
Yeah.
No, I mean, in a sense it was, but it's God's gift. And,
Right.
And it was related to his vow.
Yeah. And what was her name?
Delilah.
Delilah.
Hey there, Delilah.
Yeah, when he told her the secret to his strength, it's the picture of the lion and the honey.
Oh yeah,
again,
it is.
But this time, the Spirit of God left him, and I think maybe in that, just for funsies, one of to me the most haunting passages in Scripture. And I don't say this lightly. Yeah. It's funny. I don't think I've ever talked about this much, but the first time I read it, it made me sick. It says, "And the Spirit departed Samson, and he did not know it."
Oh man.
Oh, that's scary, ain't it?
It is.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Terrifying. Because when they come to get him, he jumped up to fight him like he did before, and God had left him and he didn't know it.
Yeah.
Ooh. That's bad.
Yeah. But here's
I can see that got you too, didn't it? You're like,
sometimes the literature of the Bible is just so incredible though, and moving, and like, I know it's way more than literature, folks. It's true, it's history,
but just as like,
but how that is presented, that is masterful.
The Spirit of God had departed him, and he did not know it.
That's masterful.
Or like, I think, okay, I'm an English lit major in college. I've read Faulkner and everybody.
Andy has.
I've read J.K. Rowling. I've
made a joke, but I decided not to.
Oh yeah. I've read Robert Jordan and Tolkien, and just tons. I mean, I read all the time. I think one of the greatest masterpieces ever written is Esther.
Oh yeah,
I do.
Oh man,
I don't know that in all of literature. I'm serious, and if you can think of something, somebody can tell me.
Yep.
There is not a better use of irony in any literature I can think of. Than what's his name?
Haman hanging from his own gallows.
From his own gallows. That is incredible storytelling. And what's even more incredible is he had no foundational literature when they wrote Esther, whoever it was that wrote Esther, to draw from. It is the foundational literature. Like from the jump, he wrote a story so beautiful that it's like if you don't know the story, he's basically a genocider of Jews, and he wants to kill them all. And he wants to kill Esther's adoptive father, Mordecai. And he convinces the king to build this massive, ego-driven gallows that are like humongous. And there's a moment of irony. That's so good. She goes in and tells him, "I'm a Jew." She tells the king, "I'm a Jew, the wife you love." And Haman is like, "Don't tell him." And he's like grabbing her. And the king walks in, and the dude's basically assaulting his wife. And then she says, "I'm a Jew, and he's trying to kill me and all my people." And they hang him on his own gallows. And that is, I've always thought, gosh, if I was a movie maker, I would try to make Esther. I think there's a drama in Esther that it's unfortunate that nobody's done a good job with it.
It's like it's a prototype of all story in a lot of ways. Like these stories.
I mean, this story's like, probably 2,500 years old minimum.
All evil.
2,500 ain't even close. 3,500 years old.
3,000 years old.
Yeah.
A little bit less, actually. It's less than that.
Yeah. So
it's close to 25.
We're in 2025. So 2,025 years ago puts us at 1.
Yeah.
So it's like 500
years before that or so.
Yeah. 2,500-year-old story.
Yeah.
And just gorgeous.
Yeah.
A gorgeous use. If you could go in and read it for the first time, if somebody did a novelization from it, it's got everything you want.
Yeah. All evil hangs from its own gallows.
Yes. So beautiful. And it's one of the only, I don't know, I think God's mentioned maybe once in Esther.
None. I don't
None.
It
may be none.
Yeah, he's not mentioned once.
Yeah. Well, he says you might have been raised up for such a time as this. Does he mention God there? I don't know.
The name of God is not.
It's implied.
Yeah, it's an implication.
But yeah.
So back to Leviticus.
Yeah, back to.
So we're going to get into these some of these offerings and stuff, because this is one of the reasons we have this podcast, is to ask the question, what's the big deal, and answer it. If you're doing your Bible reading, and you want to look into the book of Exodus, you're reading through here, what are the things that you're going to be wondering, like, what's the big deal about that? Why the death in this way? Why the sacrifice in this way? Why the rituals in this way? The feasts, the stories and things that are in here. So let's get into it. The very first chapter of Leviticus is on what is sometimes known as the burnt offering. And I wonder if there's fire involved. Okay.
There definitely is.
There is. Yeah. Let's read it. Then the Lord summoned Moses and spoke to him from the tent of meeting. Speak to the Israelites and tell them, when any of you brings an offering to the Lord from the livestock, you may bring your offering from the herd or the flock. What's the difference between a herd or a flock?
So flock is generally sheep and goats, and a herd is cattle.
Okay. All right. Good. That's helpful.
Yeah.
See, these are the things that, because you have two different offerings based on
Today,
that.
people say a herd of sheep, but really a flock is sheep, and then a herd is cows.
So the first one, we're going to be talking about cows here.
Yeah.
Verse 3. If his offering is a burnt offering from the herd, which means cows, he is to bring an unblemished male. And what is that? What's an unblemished?
It means, it can't be sickly, can't have a messed up hoof, it can't be gimpy, it can't be sick, nothing wrong with it. So, like, if you're going out to your herd or flock, the temptation, if you're going to make a sacrifice, is to give the crappy one you don't need.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
So instead, it's like give the best one. But give one that's got the one you want to keep. That's the one you got to give.
Yeah.
The one you want to get rid of, you got to keep that.
Yep.
Yeah. And God says, if you give me the best one, I'll make all of them good.
Yeah.
But if you start giving me some junk, I'm gonna give you some junk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes when people talk about the unblemished males and stuff, the idea of like pure color is involved.
Yeah,
What do
it
you
can
think?
be.
Yeah.
Well, there was, but that's only mentioned like once.
Yeah.
And that was for the foundation of the temple. I think it had to be a red heifer or something. I can't remember. But yeah, color doesn't usually matter. It just needs to be a healthy male that's not impotent. It can't be gimpy.
Yeah.
They would set it aside and observe it.
Yeah.
Make sure you're not trying to give a wormy creature that is no good, and then it would be good.
There's something that's so important about this idea.
Yes.
This is a foundational idea. They're talking about, here's why Leviticus is important. Do we still make sacrifices today?
Not animal ones.
Not animal ones.
Not animal ones. No.
But we do. We absolutely sacrificially
we bring
give
the sacrifice of praise.
Yeah, well, we give. Like we
give.
Yeah, we give sacrificially, and there's a sentiment out there that is, we give what we can. We give what we can afford to give.
Yes, the leftovers.
It is the left. The meaning is clearly what I don't need.
Yes.
We'll give to God what I don't need for myself.
Yes.
And that is backwards.
It's backwards.
And dangerous and sinful.
Yeah.
That is, you are bringing, if you give only what you can afford to give,
Yeah.
you are bringing a blemished male.
When sometimes, you get in this place where we stopped and this guy has a brand new Ford F-250, and he's pulling a Ranger bass boat that's brand new. I don't know this guy. And you say, how do people afford that? And I always go, well, they probably don't tithe.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah. If you should be able at the end of the year to get your government income tax free stuff for your charitable donations to the church. And you should look at it and think, man, I could have bought a lot of stuff with that. Yeah. Or
You should think
if
that.
If you don't
Yeah.
think that, you're not doing it right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not trying to get your money.
Dude, we don't need your money.
I don't want your money.
Look, if it was about money, I'd quit tomorrow.
Oh,
I would just
absolutely.
do this for free.
Yeah.
I'd pass for free or whatever.
Yeah. It's not about that.
No.
I actually, it's sort of, we're just going to go Lord of the Rings all day.
Yeah.
It's when Gandalf's trying to talk Bilbo out of the ring.
That's
And he
exactly
says,
right.
do not think I'm trying to rob you, Bilbo Baggins.
Yep.
I'm trying to help you.
Yeah. We don't get like a commission
No.
Some people think this is important. Like, they don't understand like how like pastors are paid.
Yeah.
And they think like, oh, tithes are up. Well, pastors must be doing good. No, it does not work. We do not make a commission.
No, it's just like you work for a company. If they make $1 million or $1 billion, your salary stays the same.
Yeah.
Now, if we started making $1 billion in here, I would petition for a 3% raise. But like
cost of living, please.
Yeah, if we gotta get some cost of living up in here.
We're not. It does. And like,
this is not a complaint.
No.
I'm not complaining.
Oh no,
I'm
certainly
just
not.
saying.
I feel blessed.
Yeah, I'm happy to be
content,
here. Yeah.
But it's important to realize, like, when a pastor is when we are telling you, it's very important to tithe and give. It's not because we want your money. Like, we don't need your money.
No,
God doesn't need your money. Like, this church does not need your money.
I'm telling you to give because I want for God to be the most important thing in your life.
Yep.
And I want you to look forward to giving and thinking. People say this stuff all the time. I use this illustration. Like, man, if you go back to 1984 and you could put $10,000 in Apple, you'd have $197 billion today. And everybody's like, I wish I could go do that. You should think of your investment in the kingdom of God like that.
Absolutely.
100%. Like, I don't even know what God's doing with all this money I gave him.
Yep.
Like, I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. But I'm going forward by faith that every single thing I invest in the kingdom, and that's what you should think of your giving at church. Investment in the kingdom of God.
I'm not keeping the lights on.
No. I mean, that's part of it, right?
I mean, it's happening.
But
that's not the worship. That's not what we're doing in our worship.
But if you think I'm keeping the lights on so that Justin and Brian can do this podcast that people listen to, and we're serving people, we need electricity for that.
Yeah.
We don't know where all this podcast is going.
Yeah. I'm keeping the lights on.
Yeah.
So we can disciple 30 children every week in this church.
Yes.
And share the gospel with them, teach them the foundational doctrines of the scriptures.
Yes.
I'm keeping the lights on.
Lead them to Christ by the hand.
So we can sing to the Lord all together in one voice. Like,
one day
worship.
those little kids will be old people.
Yeah.
With grandkids, maybe in this church.
Yeah.
And still worshiping the Lord.
Yeah.
150 years from now because of the investments we make today.
That's right.
And we don't know what all God's doing, but we look forward to the dividends. He promises dividends.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't outgive him, he says.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm not talking about outgive him like I'm going to give money, he going to give me money. No. I mean, when I get to heaven and he's like, you supported this missionary endeavor, and this guy labored for 12 years and didn't see nobody converted, but 2 guys got converted at this point, and now there's 100,000 believers in this area over this 120-year span, which is an eye blink for God.
That's right.
And it's like your investment was foundational for that. Your encouragement, your prayers were foundational for that. Well done.
Yep.
And you're like, oh,
yeah,
whoa.
I know it, right? And so unblemished male. And the way that the parallel for that today is you should give in such a way that it's a loss. It's a true loss. It's a sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
Like, you could be doing something with that money.
Yes.
Like, it could be doing good things for you.
I wouldn't have to be paying interest on my student loan payments or whatever.
Yeah.
Or
I could drive the new car. I could have a new car.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Dude, if you're tithing 10% on your gross, and I know it depends on your wages and stuff, but you're giving around 10% and you're making a decent living, you can start to understand why your neighbor can get a Range Rover and you can't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
But I don't miss it.
Yeah. What do you think about 10% as the number?
I think it's a good number.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
I wouldn't say like, thus says the Lord.
Yeah.
But it seems to be so Abraham gives 10% of all to God after his fight with the kings of
to Melchizedek.
Yep. He gives 1/10 of all of it out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's not like God had given a law, you got to give 10%. So it seems to be a good standard.
Yeah.
And I will say this, it needs to be enough that it hurts. And that's, I think, when it starts clipping into your wants.
I think at 10%, it will hurt. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think there are people and that like 10% like might be wrong.
Yeah.
Because you make $1 million or something, dude.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
I thought you were talking about.
No,
yeah. I think
mean,
either
like,
which way.
There's there's some places there where like if you might be holding on to some like weird legalism, holding on to the 10%.
Yeah.
So you can avoid
Yeah.
Truly sacrificial giving.
Yeah, it needs to be a sacrifice. But like sometimes maybe you can't give 10. Some people lose jobs, and God expects for you to keep your house lights on, to take care of your family. All of these are services to God. So there may be a time where it's like, I can't do this right now.
Yeah.
You should still give something. The widow threw in her 2 mites, right?
Yep, that's right.
So you should still give something to keep you from getting addicted to money and thinking this money is all I have to take care of me.
That's right.
You got to be like, God's got to take care of me.
Yep.
And I trust him. And don't be stupid, but don't be stingy. There's the 2 ditches, stingy and stupid.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly right.
Greed will kill you.
Yeah.
So when you make your offering to the Lord, it's got to be the best.
Yeah. I would just say if you're going down the path of like, I need to reduce my giving. That's like the beginning of your conversation you're having with your spouse. Like, we need to reduce our giving. Like, you need to do that with probably some fear and trembling.
Yeah.
Well,
you need to be like...
not relief.
Man. It could be a sign you've been a terrible steward of your money.
Yep.
And God doesn't appreciate that.
Yep.
So I've did a sermon recently. I can't remember how recently because I'm getting old and I can't remember how long ago stuff was. But the stewardship is an issue in the Bible. And so I looked up the stats of, and y'all are listening, the odds are this is you. Average American owns like $8,000 to $10,000 of credit card debt. That's average.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, dude. 6,000 to 8,000 something. It's the several thousands.
In credit card debt.
Debt, which those pirates get you 20% minimum.
Oh, yeah.
They're nailing you every month, right? So if you owe $10,000 and you're getting hit with 20% of that every month, how are people living, man? You gonna Google it, see what it is? Average American credit card debt.
I should.
Yeah, Google it up so we can give them a better. So if you're there and you're underwater in credit cards by multiple factors of thousands,
$6,000.
6,000. If you're in credit card debt, multiple thousands of dollars, then
some say up to 7, 8. So,
and
you're in credit card debt.
You're in credit card debt. You're paying several $100s a month, not even touching principal. You're just touching, your interest payment. And you're like, man, I'm broke. I'm going to have to stop giving to God. It's like, hang on a second, bud.
What is happening?
Hang on, buddy. You've overspent your means.
Yeah.
And if you had been tithing that whole time, you wouldn't have this credit card debt.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you start thinking, well, 10% of this belongs to my Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to be thinking of, instead of just buying me a new jacket or whatever you're blowing your money on, my experience with people who get in this debt, because I used to work in a bank, is it's not like a car. It's like going out to eat. It's like buying shoes. It's like these little nibbler purchases.
Buying a car will actually absolutely do it though.
It will, but not on credit cards.
Yeah, not on credit cards.
Yeah.
It's because the average American has $6,000 in credit card debt. What's the average American on car debt?
Yes, car debt and house debt and stuff. So what happens on credit cards is what I would call a little nibble debt. I went out to eat. I spent $37 at this restaurant. I bought this pair of shoes. I bought these boots. I bought these pants, and it starts snowballing. And I just saw your eyeballs.
Oh my gosh.
And
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is sick.
Dude, is Schindler's List too far of a dated reference to use? I think about this in giving.
What is
Schindler's List?
I don't know what that is.
It's about Oscar Schindler during World War II, and he's a German, and he uses his factory and his business as a cover to keep Jewish people out of the camps, to keep them from being killed. It's a marvelous movie, Steven Spielberg. It's one of those you watch one time, and it's in black and white except for one thing, and it's anyway.
Okay.
It's a little girl, and she's got on a red dress, so that when they gas her and they throw her in the mass grave, you can see the little girl tumbling. It's awful. So anyway, at the end of the war, all these Jewish people are thanking Oscar Schindler, and it's like rooms full of people, and instead of being happy, he's absolutely devastated. He's devastated because he's like, I could have done more. I could have sold my car. I could have sold this ring.
Ooh.
And it crushes him because he realizes he kept too much stuff and he could have been more useful.
Yeah.
And I think about that as like an analogy to giving. at the end of your life when it's like, I was $45,000 in debt to cars. I had $7,000 worth of credit card debt because I ate out and was lazy and didn't pack my own lunch. And I bought shoes I didn't need. Not everybody needs shoes. I'm just saying you bought some glamour vanity purchases. And then you die. And in the judgment, you see what's real, like the souls of people and folks who have need and the poor who cried out because they didn't have a cloak. And it wasn't their fault that they didn't have a blanket because their parents were awful or whatever's happening. Yeah. And you're like, oh, no. Oh, no.
Golly.
It's awful.
That's real stuff.
That's real stuff,
That's
buddy.
A fantastic point.
And that's why I give.
Well said.
It's not because I'm like, well, God said I need to tick this box, so I guess I'm going to give a 20 when the plate passed by.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Hey, get this.
Yeah.
Average American car auto loan debt.
Yeah.
Average.
Yeah.
Almost $25,000.
I actually thought it might be higher now.
I can't believe the average.
Yeah, that's average.
The average household car debt, auto debt, is $25,000. So the average credit card is
$7.
We'll say $7.
Yeah,
we'll split the difference.
Yeah.
Average auto is $25. So now we're at $32,000. And mortgages are a little different. I think we just we put that aside. That's the only really way you buy a house.
It's there.
Yeah, but it's there. Goodness.
They're cranking out some interest out there.
Yeah.
Man.
This is a bad deal.
It's a bad deal. It's not a big deal. It's a bad deal.
Yeah.
And you get yourself and that's what our culture sells us is to buy. That's where
we didn't have an intention of really talking about all this.
Not a bit. I was excited to talk about the
theologically
sacrifice.
There.
Well, let me talk about this burnt offering.
Yeah, let's get into it a little bit more.
It says verse 4, I think, is one of the things that means the most to me, I guess. It says, so you bring your bull or your thing from the flock. It's the same instruction. And this burnt offering is like a sin offering. So a sin offering is you become aware that you have sinned against God's law, whatever that might mean. I did something to my neighbor. I was unkind to my wife. Whatever it is, you did something bad. And so you bring this offering, and the priest takes
this isn't the sin offering.
Oh, this is the burnt offering? What's the difference in burnt offering and sin offering?
There's a difference. There's a sin offering in Leviticus 4.
Oh, I thought the burnt offering and sin offering the same thing.
Burnt offering at the beginning,
they all get burnt.
It's to make atonement, an aroma pleasing to the Lord, but it's like free will offering.
Okay,
this is
that's what I'm saying.
This is like worship.
Yeah,
this is like plain worship.
But it's I thought atonement would seem to mean
it's not about it's not explicitly about sin though.
Yeah,
it's so it's like prayer supplication is used in 1 Samuel. It's done for that. It's a regular offering. So this might be like regular worship kind of style for
this
families.
Is, by the way, and the reason this is important for a lot of reasons. One, it's a fellowship offering with the Lord, but this is how the Levitical priesthood ate.
Yeah. In the next one, grain offering too. Yeah.
They share the grain offering and they share from the burnt offerings. That's why Eli got so fat.
Yeah.
He was stealing actually.
Yeah.
But he was supposed to eat from the offerings, but not the part he kept eating the fat.
He's eating the fat.
He got to quit doing that.
Yeah.
So
the fat's supposed to be for the Lord.
But what's interesting is the repeated command for the offerer, that'd be you bringing your offering, to lay your hand on its head.
Yep.
Every time it says, lay your hand on his head, it'll be accepted for you. Lay your hand on his head. The personal connection. It's like a super intimate issue. So you would take this sheep or goat or bull, and the Levitical priests were basically butchers.
Yeah.
And you put your hand on it. They would have it bound. You put your hand on his head, and the minute you do that, they cut its throat.
Yeah.
And it wallows and dies in its blood. It is a messy affair. And so you need to, this is the symbol. Why you got to put your hand on his head? You can't just like, here you go, take it in the room and kill it. No. The connection is the point.
It's supposed to be you.
The moment that you are transferred to it in a symbolic way, the priests are saying, and this should be you and your family.
Yep.
And you watch it die in its own blood.
Yep.
And then that blood gets put on the altar.
Yep.
And and that is to cover you. That thing died so you didn't have to.
This is like, we talked about this a couple weeks ago with the memory verses we love. In Romans, the wages of sin is death. Yes. And it's just an idea, unfortunately, to a lot of people. It's just like this theological idea about death. And
it's brutal, gory, bloody death.
If you were in the stinking tabernacle, it was this. My sin is death.
Yes. So when you read about it, your brain doesn't do good with big numbers, right? It just doesn't.
Yeah.
And so you think about the Day of Atonement when every male in Israel for that time was required by God to offer atonement offering, to bring a lamb or a goat or a bull or whatever is said that needs to be offered on that day. And you've got 100,000 men up there with 100,000 sheep or goats. And you've got 350 priests or whatever it would take to attend the temple that day. All day long, all they're doing is cutting throats and throwing blood all day. You imagine it. All you would hear is the sound of bleating meh, meh, goats and sheep and bulls. If you ever been to a cattle sale or something, it's a noisy affair. And gallons of blood coming off that mountain. Stink.
Yeah.
The stink of, like, you think of the temple, we think of the pretty gold.
Yeah.
We think of the candelabra. We think of the bronze sea, and it's like, oh, I would love to see it. If you went on sacrifice day, it would smell like death.
Yeah. You're supposed to kind of, when you're reading when you're reading Exodus, you're supposed to be like, wow, how beautiful, this is so beautiful. And you get to Leviticus covered in blood.
The
whole thing's covered in blood, man.
Whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how they did it, honestly.
Yeah.
So much blood and so much killing. It was a slick. I bet people they had to be
There's
walking
like
around.
some assumption that family was thought of as bigger.
Yeah.
Than just like if you're a dad and you have kids, it's not just that. It's like who's your oldest patriarch?
Right. Well, that's why I said 100,000. I think that's being generous.
It is. Yeah. And so there's some assumption
because
that
there's millions of people.
Yeah. There's some assumption that there's like the families are thought of as a little bit larger. So
I know
that's important.
I don't know,
but not that important.
If I've mentioned this, but recently I was bit by a dog, and I was bleeding a little bit, and it looked macabre in my house.
Yeah.
Just a little bitty.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot imagine what it must have been like. I think people were walking around. They didn't have rubber boots. But it had to be slick with blood everywhere you went.
The priests were covered
in blood, covered in stink. Because not only did they kill the thing and drain its blood and have to flip the blood on the altar,
they had
to skin the bulls.
Yep.
They had to quarter them out.
Yep.
They had to burn them on the massive grill that they had.
Yep.
And then people took pieces of it and went and ate it.
Yep.
It is crazy, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's wild.
They had to train for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You had to be like an underling priest. I think you started your duty at like 30 and you had to retire at 50.
Something like that. 55 maybe.
55.
Yeah.
And because everybody knows once you're 55, you're toast.
It's coming for you, pal.
It's coming. I got 5 years. But it was even worse in the first century. But if you were making,
you were an old man for sure.
If you were butchering bulls and goats and sheep every single day, dude, that's hard work, man.
Yeah. So, this is brutal. This is a brutal thing. It's supposed to be brutal. You're supposed to read this and be queasy.
Man, I read a Charles Spurgeon sermon once. One of the best illustrations I ever saw. He was preaching in Leviticus.
Oh, yeah.
And he was preaching from these passages.
Yeah.
And he took it to Jesus, man, on the cross. He said, can you see him there with the crown of thorns on his head, his head bowed for you? Now just reach out and lay your hand on his head.
Oh, man.
That's good.
That's true. And, that's a good point to maybe take it home with. There's a little bit more in the passage. It talks about, it just basically says the same thing for the flocks, which is from sheep or goats. Mm-hmm. And then it also says the same thing for birds. There was a qualification. If you were poor, you could bring birds for these things.
For certain sacrifices.
Yeah, for certain sacrifices.
Certain you couldn't get around.
Yeah.
If you were poor on certain days, just for fun, Certain sacrifices, more like individual redemption of the firstborn.
Yeah.
If you were poor and couldn't afford a lamb, you could do turtle doves, which is how we know Jesus' dad was poor.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they offered the turtle doves. The others is if you're poor, you are allowed to go in with a neighbor. You go in halvesies.
Oh, yeah.
They'd be like, hey, y'all can get together and the two of y'all can get a lamb.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the Passover rule. And so that's interesting that God was like, if you're poor, you can do this.
So that's the rest of the whole first chapter. But it gets to the theological point of it is that, this burnt offering is pointing to Jesus. All the offerings are really sacrifice for worship, right? For the sake of worship, right?
And we should talk about it because I want to say this because to me it's super important. Pagans did animal sacrifice.
Yeah.
And the idea of it, and sometimes in here they'll say the offering is soothing to the Lord or a fragrant aroma to the Lord. But there's a massive difference.
Man, we should talk a ton about just the reality of sacrifice.
In the pagan culture, you're giving this offering kind of as a bribe a little bit to the god.
Oh, 100%
and hoping they will be favorable to you, and you don't know if it works. And there's even literature in not Marduk. God, is it
the New Leash?
Yeah, it's basically the gods feast on the sacrifice, and they eat it. And if they don't, they get hungry.
They've asked for it. They need it.
They need it.
They need your stuff
to fuel them, or whatever.
Yeah, that's how it works in the pagan world.
And people will read people who don't believe in and who exist to anger me. That's the only reason, because it's all about me.
Yeah.
They'll say, this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
God, Yahweh of Israel is like the pagan gods around him. He needed this soothing offering. And it's like, no. The reason this offering works is because it's a propitiation of sin.
It's so different than the other.
Absolutely different.
This is like, God does not need it. He actually absolutely does. This is the sacrifices are not for God.
No, they are for
you.
Yes.
Yeah, they're in both theologically and physically.
Yes.
Like theologically, it's for you because you need to see what sin does, right? You need to see the true cost of sin. Physically, it needs to hurt too.
Yeah.
Like it's expensive to sin.
And God doesn't say, I'm going to eat it. You eat it.
You eat it. Yeah. And so, I mean, how much was a goat worth then?
Yeah. Okay.
How much is a sheep worth then?
So
it's expensive
the
to
whole
sin.
thing is you take the, I don't know if we should explain propitiation, but it's an important word. It means not only to take away sin, but to bring into good standing.
Yeah.
You don't want to just take away sin.
Yeah. It's the paid off debt.
Yeah, it's a paid off debt, and you're in good standing. So God doesn't just forgive your sin; He makes you a part of the family, right? That's what a propitiation is. So you think about this. Where can we link it to? They go up there, they make this sin offering, they cut its throat, they cook it, then they have to go home and they eat the propitiatory sacrifice.
Yeah.
Passover. Jesus, this is my body, which is broken for you. And then we start talking about consubstantiation trans. Jesus is saying, I am the sacrifice from the temple. And when you made that sacrifice, you ate it.
Yeah. And so you need to eat this bread.
You need to eat this bread
body.
because it's me. I am your sacrifice.
Yeah.
Drink this. This is my blood. I am your sacrifice. It's a new covenant, not like the old one with burnt goats and bulls and stuff that couldn't take away sin. That was just a temporary thing until I came to be the real deal. And that's why we have the Lord's Supper.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, and the pagans would make their offerings like, boy, I hope this God's listening to me and I'll have a good boat trip, or, we'll go make some money in this next city if the God of coin will take care of me. The God of Israel is like, you do not have my favor in the sense that you have sinned and it's death.
Yep.
So I'm asking you, telling you, come make this sacrifice so that we can be right together. And I will accept this bull on your behalf so I won't have to kill you.
Yep.
That's it. I'm not going to say, oh, he's bribing me so that I'll give him a good trip.
Yeah.
It's like, this is so you don't die, bro.
Yeah. So there's an apologetic weight to the sacrificial system in Leviticus because in how it stands against the entire ancient world culture. Mm-hmm. And if you ever do any reading in the ancient world, like just reading, primary sources and stuff, brutal world, brutal little g gods. Not one of them really care about your morality.
No,
not a single bit.
They don't have morals themselves.
They don't. They're evil, petty, and that
jealous.
Jealous. And there's no idea really of
Zeus is a scumbag.
Yeah, they're all like
rapists.
Lecherous. Yeah, exactly.
He's married to the goddess of marriage, Hera, who is always faithful to him, and he cheats on her all the time. And since she can't cheat because she's the goddess of marriage, she just murders all his children.
Yeah.
Or makes their life absolute miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so to see in the ancient world, Yahweh, the God of the scriptures, our God, their whole sacrificial system, religious practices, rituals are all based around their errors in morality.
Yes.
It's staggering. It is so staggering.
He is the only God who's not immoral.
That's right.
He is righteous.
Yep. And so there's an apologetic weight to that because it's so inconvenient.
Yeah.
This gives them nothing. Right. This if you look at like the rest of the different pantheons in the ancient world, there's so much to gain. It's like a Ponzi scheme.
It's a health and it's a prosperity gospel.
Yeah. The priests had like nothing when they were doing it right. When they're following the rules, like they got to eat bread and some meat.
Yeah.
They not wealthy. They don't own a ton of land, all this kind of stuff. There's no gain.
Which
and
is
it's
why
expensive and hard.
Which is why throughout Israel and in the days of David, when he becomes the king, there are almost no priests. They've abandoned the temple because people aren't worshiping God. They're not bringing the tithes to the storehouse, and they're literally going to starve if they stay.
Yeah,
that's awful, but that's how it was.
Yeah. So there's some apologetic weight to that. This isn't the same as what they were doing in Ugarit or what they were doing in Egypt or anything. This is very,
Egyptian
very different.
Priests, if you read between the lines in the book of Genesis, were rich.
Yeah.
They were the only ones that didn't lose their land during the famine. They had a very high place of prominence. Now, I would argue the Levitical priests had place of prominence when Israel was doing right.
Yeah.
But they spent. You were fortunate to be a priest during a time when people actually cared about God.
Yeah.
And that's why you see all these priests doing weird stuff like. He had his own household priest who was a Levite. That stuff happens in like Judges.
In Judges,
what's he doing over there? Well, it's because nobody's bringing sacrifice and the dude had to make a living.
Yeah. Well, you look at like Samuel. You get to 1 Samuel.
Yeah.
And the tabernacle is presented as basically just Eli's there.
Eli's there and his two sons who are worthless.
Sons. Yep. There's no one there.
Nobody there. And they're like sleeping with the women that come up to make offerings. Yep. The boys are, not Eli.
Yeah.
And it's so bad.
Yeah.
And the word of the Lord was scarce.
Yep.
So bad.
Yeah. There's one of my seminary professors, I can't remember who said this exactly. They talk about the idea of like Old Testament Judaism and like that there's there's this assumption that there's this practiced religion called Judaism in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
He just laughs at that. He's like, where? In the Old Testament, most of the time, they do nothing. They care nothing about God.
And we might can wrap it up soon, but people have this anachronistic idea. They see modern day Judaism, right? And they teleport it back, and you think, well, that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
And you read about what God instructed them to do in the temple, and you just assume they did it. Yeah. They did not do it.
They did not do it.
Archaeology. In fact, I was reading this very liberal archaeological thing, and liberal in the sense that they don't care about the Bible. They're just about archaeology.
Yeah.
And so they dug up this stuff from like, I don't know. It's pretty new, but it was probably around 300 or 400 BC, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. And it's basically right by the Temple Mount, not far at all. It was a pagan temple.
Oh, yeah.
In Jerusalem, right by the temple of where the temple of the Lord would be. And so, their conclusion was, it probably wasn't really Judaism. Judaism, as we know it now, was a made-up thing after the diaspora. Because we see that there's a pagan temple right here, and that's not the account of the Bible. And I'm like, are we reading the same Bible?
Well, it's because they have the anachronistic view.
Yeah.
Like, the Bible is perfectly fine with that reality.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, of course they're worshiping other gods.
Of course.
That's the whole problem for the entire thing.
Their reason for the diaspora
is
because these people were doing stuff that was so stupid. There's only like 3 kings.
What's shocking though, I understand. Like if you're a modern Bible reader, you're probably pretty familiar with the New Testament.
Yeah,
you get the New Testament's a lot of narrative, the Gospels.
Yeah,
and in the first century, there is a very established religious.
Yes,
and
they're spun up about the Messiah. Even so, we studied the woman at the well. Even the Samaritans were looking for Messiah.
It's historically, it's like a relatively new phenomenon.
Yes,
it's that religious fervor that you see in the Jews in the Gospels with Jesus, that is only a couple hundred years old.
Yes,
So and it's all responsive to the exile that they were all in. The Pharisees. Yeah, there are no Pharisees in the Old Testament.
The Old Testament is a disaster of Israel. It's a disaster.
The Josiah story.
Yeah, I was about to get to Josiah, but it's like King David. You think, oh, he was so awesome. Dude, his kingdom didn't last 2 generations.
It's just why he was there.
He was there. Solomon had it. Solomon died. Kingdom's gone. 10/12, 5/6 of them immediately devolved.
70 years.
Immediately devolved to paganism. Immediately, 10 of the 12 tribes were pagan and wouldn't go to Jerusalem anymore. And so
the entire northern tribe
never,
or the entire northern kingdom consisting of 10 tribes. There's no success stories.
They never returned to God. None of their kings were worth a flip. When Josiah, the king of Judah, and you think, oh, it's all going good, he sees the temple is in disrepair. He is one of the very few good kings. And he's like, we should probably repair the temple. It's falling apart.
He's like an 8-year-old kid.
12 or something. The priests are influencing him. So he dedicates money, and they're cleaning it up, and they're like, hey, Your Majesty, we found a scroll in here when we were cleaning up the mess, and we don't know what it is. And he's like, well, let's read it. And so they start reading it, and it's the Torah.
It's the
book of Moses.
And they don't Genesis through Deuteronomy.
They don't know what it is. And Josiah's listening to it, and everybody's listening to it, and he tears his clothes and is like, we're doomed.
What have we done?
What have we done? Like we didn't even know. And so like he goes to God and he's like, hey, we've messed up. And God's like, I'm gonna overlook it, but pretty soon I'm gonna kill all y'all. So it's a
oh man.
When we're reading this in Leviticus and you see how serious sin is and that you ought to be making these offerings, they didn't do it.
And it really sets up it sets up the whole historical story for the Old Testament.
Dude,
right?
I'll say this one more thing. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
When Josiah does his reform, he wants to celebrate the Passover, right? And when they do the Passover, the men show up. Everybody's going to do this big revival. None of them are circumcised.
Oh, yeah.
They don't even circumcise.
They're not,
And it says they haven't celebrated the Passover properly since Joshua came into the Promised Land.
Yep.
That means during King David's reign, they didn't do the Passover correctly.
So the time between Joshua and Josiah. All right. Let's do some math. Joshua was 1,600, 1,800 years BC, right?
Ish, yeah.
Ish, around there. Josiah, probably 700 BC. It's 1,000 years.
Yeah, for 1,000 years.
1,000.
And God's like, they haven't kept a single Sabbath year.
Yeah.
They haven't kept the year of Jubilee.
So all the things that we're reading about here,
they didn't do any.
They did not do it. They've not released their slaves.
And God was kind of them for 1,000 years.
Golly.
1,000 years, man.
Yeah.
And I mean, there were people along the way.
It's just moments, though.
Moments.
Like David's good times. It's just a moment.
Solomon.
But
Samuel, the Bible is very careful to say, Oh, God loved Solomon. He blessed him with wisdom beyond his peers. He was amazing. And at the end of his life, he married a bunch of pagan women, and he set up a bunch of fake altars, and he worshipped a bunch of false gods, and he didn't give his heart to God, so God judged the whole nation because of Solomon's sin.
That's right. Samuel did pretty good.
Samuel did good.
He did pretty good.
David did good. He had his downfall.
He had his downfall too.
Solomon, but my professor of the Old Testament, may he rest in peace, John Salamer, used to say, when you're in Deuteronomy, you're playing Deuteronomy baseball, and 2 strikes and you're out. And every single, and because you're looking for Messiah. You're hoping the next king is the Messiah.
Deuteronomy?
He called it Deuteronomic baseball. Because at the end
you said when you're in Deuteronomy.
Yeah. Well, he would say, so what happens? You're playing Deuteronomy baseball in the Kings.
Oh, in Kings.
And so what will happen is you'll get a king and he'll say, oh, and he did great and he did this and he did this, but he didn't tear down the high places and he didn't do this thing or this happened during his reign. And that means they struck out. They're not Messiah. Because the whole point is God made a promise to David, right? And to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob that a Messiah is coming.
Yep.
And it's going to be of the Davidic king. So every single Davidic king, there's a new hope. It's like, oh, maybe Josiah's the guy.
No.
And then it gets in, it's like, no, he did this. He offered an offering. And at the end of his life, he was a dipstick.
Yeah.
And it's every single one of them, right? Even up to the exile. It's like,
that's right.
And then the kingdom collapses and they're like, what happens next?
Yeah.
Tune in for the new covenant, dear listener. Yeah.
So we're going to dig into some more of Leviticus next week on the podcast. We'll look at we'll probably look at all of the offerings kind of all together. We kind of gave an offering overview today. And so we'll look at all the different offerings there and kind of explain what's going on, what the big deal is about those. And I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Thank you all for listening.
Yeah.